What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review for February 22nd, 2021. I do apologize for missing last week's episode. It was a combination of a number of things that I don't really want to go into, but I just wasn't getting an episode out last week. So what I'm going to do is put a few elements from last week's news and put them into this week's episode because there's some holes to fill. There wasn't a whole lot in terms of official content coming out of Star Citizen this week, so why not do that? If this is your first week in review, though, it is where I take all of the official Star Citizen news from the prior week, pile them into one video on Monday, and get that out to you with some of my opinions in there as well. Also, if you haven't checked out my live stream, please make sure you do so. Twitch.tv/SaltEMike. It's a great way to communicate with me outside of the comment section in YouTube, which kind of crappy way to do it. So, jumping right into the video, we had a 3.12 post-mortem, and this is kind of what the thumbnail was about. Like, CIG finally admitting some of their faults in an update, and it's really nice to see, and for me, this is what open development is. In previous post-mortems, it was more of like a pat on the back, we released these things, and it was more of like a monthly report kind of thing. But what a post-mortem really is this is what we did, these are the issues we ran into, and this is how we're gonna fix it. And this is the first one that like really touches on that for the most part. So starting out with the vehicle team, the team did a lot of nice work when it came to countermeasures. Their balance, their implementation of them, but missiles still needed a lot of work, and they decided to leave that work until 3.13 because that is when all of the missiles are going to get converted to IFCS 2.0, which I believe is the same system that our ships are flying under, and is also way less hampering on the server, so maybe missiles will be a little bit smoother, seeing them in game, all that kind of stuff. Also, the Talon and the Talon Shrike came in and they were really well received, but there are a few issues with them. The cockpit bug was a thing, but more importantly, the one that they're really dealing with right now is the Shrike not being able to fire missiles, so that's something that they'd really like to fix. For the USPU feature team, I have no idea initially why they talked about the Expo, but then, because that was a 3.11 thing, and then they touched on the fact that it basically slowed down all of their 3.12 work. They, unlike the vehicle team, provided what they'll do in the future when it came to all their work, and a lot of it seemed pretty obvious. Use modular things, repeat work from the previous year's Expos to not have to always redo stuff and do it bespoke, and it just takes too much time for a couple day event, basically, which is, this is a game that needs to get done at some point, and things like this are holding it back. Kind of been saying that stuff for years, but now they're kind of realizing it, so hey, good on you guys. I don't really want to put you down for that. For reputation, this is the biggest feature that came into 3.12, and the really only thing that they said that didn't go well with this was the fact that they should have had it done about a year ago. That they got pulled away from it, and the producer or the lead on this project said that he would have liked to stay on it and not get removed from it because it was so important. And they also stated that they would have wanted to have a UI for it, which we saw in, I think, last week's ISC and the sprint report, to have that done to communicate the changes to players, and that next time around, instead of just converting something like this, so there is no next time around for reputation, but the next time a feature that touches so many elements of the game, they want to spend the time updating most of those elements of the game instead of something like with reputation, just bounties, when that could have been done to really improve literally every mission in the game, right? So having that, I think that's what they would have wanted to do. For the design team, as we know, AI intercepts torpedoes now, but because the servers are so bad, they don't do it well enough. Now, their plan to make them more accurate in the future is obvious, but the only reason that I'm mentioning it is that the reason they don't work is because the server frame rates are so low, and they're actually making development choices and taking up development time compensating for this. And the only reason they would do that is if we're not going to see an improvement to server frame rates for a significant amount of time. And this is kind of a clue into that. For refineries from the design team, I'm a little confused. They say they aren't well balanced, so instead they balanced mining. But in the what they would do differently, they only discussed UI. So I would ask, why is the Prospector so much better than the Mole? How would they have balanced refineries in the future? How are they going to make the Mole a more usable ship? Because it just is. It will never, in the current implementation, never compare to 3 Prospectors flying around and covering way more ground. It makes no sense. For the core gameplay team, the only thing I'm going to touch on here is the tractor beam. They wish they gave it to mission designers earlier so they could have done more meaningful content with it. I mean, I do think it worked really well with the Phase 2 of Xenothreat, but seeing more of that in the future would be really nice because it is a really cool little piece of machinery, I guess. For the tech section, this is all patting on the back. This is what we got done, and not what we're struggling with and what we would change to make the struggles less of a problem. Since tech is the single biggest issue holding Star Citizen back, this is where I would have liked to see that open development communication. I think this is where everybody that is a fan of Star Citizen and is looking for it to be playable and fun and enjoyable in the future wants to know about, like Gen 12 renderer, server meshing, persistence, iCache. What is going on with these things? What is holding you back? And do it in a simple and easy to understand manner. And this was your opportunity to do it, and you didn't. And I'm disappointed. Even in a patch where desync was a complete disaster and was the worst I've seen it in some time, the paragraph praising it was just hard to read. These are all the things that we did to resolve desync, when all I see is desync. So I'm confused. So where's the what went wrong in the current patch implementation section of at least the desync, right? Because it was one of the biggest issues in 3.12. So yeah, a lot of good here, but also a lot of disappointment from just one specific section for me. Moving on, we're going to take roadmap updates from last week and add them into this week's episode like I said I would do. So for Roadmap Roundup, they added the weapons content team to the roadmap, which is basically just art and animation for ship and FPS weapons, tools, props, and other things. Because this is a whole number of items, because of this, a whole number of items have been added to the roadmap in progress view. But yeah, you can kind of read these off here on, this side, but it's a whole thing that you can kind of check out in the progress view, which is very difficult to communicate in a video like this. So feel free to check out the roadmap and look at it for yourself. For release view changes, the Merlin and Connie docking has passed its review. It's moved to committed for 3.13. I think it's the only thing that is committed in 3.13 at the moment. So that's pretty cool. They got that work done. Hopefully now it's a lot of bug fixing because you have a lot of time to work on those things before it actually releases. So I expect a smooth release for docking for 3.13. For new deliverables in future patches, 3.14 has multi-tool healing attachment and the Cure Life medical tool. These two I think we'll see and hear a lot more as we approach June, and where medical gameplay is likely coming. And to be honest, it's really needed for Star Citizen. I think it'll be a nice dynamic. For 3.13, 2 size 7 ship weapons were added. I think this is just related to what they did with capital ships in Xenothreat, and was prioritized because of that. Then a Grey Cat salvage attachment. That is for the multi-tool. For me, this is unexpected. I don't know what you guys think. I thought it would kind of go the route of mining. We would see salvage with a ship, then see salvage with a multi-tool, and then improve on salvage from there. But yeah, it looks like salvage might start with the multi-tool or come at the same time with ships. So we'll have to see. But, this is way towards the end of next year, or this year, I should say, and we'll have to see. And for the end of next year, we saw the fire extinguisher added to 3.16. I don't pay much attention to 3.15, 3.16 type stuff because I just expect to see a lot of movement when it comes to the items on the list for 3.15 and 3.16, but this sort of implies that fire will be a thing. We've seen a lot of fire propagation work in sprint reports. Who knows? We'll have to see. Moving on to video updates, we had an ISC where they had an Orison featurette, which is the landing zone on Crusader. And most of the landing zones and stations they've created just really suffer with issues from navigation. So the first thing we'll touch on is, will Orison be any different?
In comparison to the other locations, we try to improve the navigation for the player and have everything a bit more easy to read and to navigate to.
Personally, I hope they improve on this a bit as they do more landing zones. They certainly are learning how we use them and have been improving on how we make them, or how they make them, I should say. They spent a lot of time talking about visuals, but did you guys notice anything about the sky? It's really empty. For me, this landing zone was always communicated to us as Cloud City from Star Wars episode, well, I guess the third original episode. And I hope that changes, because it was just a blue sky. And yeah, that was like the one takeaway from this featurette that I was like, ooh, I hope this isn't how it releases. But, you know, if the plan is to deliver clouds at a later date, I understand as well. But they also touched a little on gameplay.
We're building Orison with room to grow, so of course later on in future releases we're going to be adding Orison General and the main Crusader showroom. The showroom will show off all the ships that Crusader makes, and Orison General will start featuring our new kind of life and death cycle healing mechanics and all that kind of stuff when that comes online.
This seems a lot like the initial release of New Babbage, where it was kind of lackluster to start and then eventually got pretty cool. But eventually the plan is to use this location to expose new gameplay, maybe with the hospital. I feel like we'll have hospitals at other landing zones as well, but it's sort of implied that we'll see it first here, maybe. They also touch on some other interesting gameplay plans for the future here.
Something we're setting up for future releases are the maintenance access points,
with the idea that these doorways can lead into mission areas where players will be assigned to do repairs or sneak into an area, and there's a lot of possibilities that we can put behind those doors. But by building in those access points now for future mission content, it gives us a lot of leeway to design stuff.
I feel like for a while the mission team hasn't had the fun tools that they need to make more engaging missions and things to do in Star Citizen. And like, just think about this for a second. For all the years you've been flying down to landing zones, there has never been a single mission dedicated to that landing zone. Sure, you might drop something off there, or you may receive a mission there and then go somewhere else, but there's never been a mission related to that landing zone. It's crazy to think that at this stage we're still adding something like that to Star Citizen. And it's not even here, it's in the near future they're going to be adding it. It's just another example. I tend to bring these up every week of just how far away we are from a finished product, right? There's so many moving parts, so many things to do. They then move on to a ship visual degradation featurette. And it appears they're going to go with two systems to start with that are strictly visual, dirt and wear. So we'll start out with dirt. What is it?
There's kind of two concepts of dirt that we're throwing around. There's the environmental build-up, which we already have in terms of our characters and the snow biomes, and you know, you go and fly into a muddy swamp, you'd expect there to be mud on your landing gear. But there's also the kind of concept of dirt, which I think you already see in a lot of our wear maps, is the build-up of grime, and it's an additive process. It's layers that are being built on top of whatever the ship came like out of the factory. And of course, with ships getting dirty, there's also going to be the concept of cleaning your ships. For the initial release, we're simply looking at when you go to a repair terminal, your ship gets cleaned.
So dirt basically seems that it's going to mimic how our suits gather ice on Microtech and the other Microtech moons. I love the idea of cleaning them as well, which is kind of cool. And I just hope they go deeper into that in the future, like actually having ship washes or something like that. But what is wear? What's the difference, basically?
And then wear, which is more of the subtractive, if you will, so we're taking things away.
It's the paint fade that you get if you leave your your car out in the sun. It's the scratches, it's the lack of peeling, the layers being peeled away as you rub up against something, or as you go through atmosphere, or whatever we decide will be the kind of controlling element. And I expect there'll be lots of controlling elements.
Okay, nice. I mean, this is obviously immersive, but I do hope we see the visuals at some point communicating one day to the player, like, hey, you're probably going to need to repair your ship or it won't perform as well as you would like it to. And I think that's the point of all of this. And but then I get a little confused by this next clip.
There's other things that we need to consider as well when we're looking at the wear. We need to establish really exactly what wear means versus dirt, versus damage, versus aging. They're separate systems and separate features that we want to be able to support. So when they come together, we get this really kind of beautiful, consistent, visually appealing end product.
So this is so Star Citizen. We're working on something that we don't actually know what it means, so we really need to figure out what it means. You would think you would do that before you worked on the feature, right? So like, what? I'm so confused. But anyway, moving on to SCL, I felt that this was a bit of a throwaway episode. They talked a lot about what they've done in the past and not about really what they're doing in the future. But at the end, they had a nice bit of information that there's some Easter eggs that likely have never been found.
I think people should look a little bit more.
Yeah, the last place that has been discovered, some places may just not have been discovered.
So you're saying there's some areas out there that haven't been found?
There's areas out there. I mean, I know that I've made a few for New Babbage that I think I've given a few hints at on Reddit every now and again, but I've never actually seen a picture of it. So it might have been discovered, but I've not seen it personally. But there's a few places around Orison that have spectacular views where one might have a party at.
Yeah, I might try to find this one because I think he really clues in as to how to find it. So I'm going to give it a try this week on my live stream. So feel free to stop by and enjoy the ride around New Babbage. For other updates, we had a sneak peek. This is definitely the bottom of a mounted gun, but what I'm trying to figure out is where is it? Where is it located in the background? Because if that's a ship, what ship is it? Are we able to mount these kind of anywhere on ships? If so, that's pretty cool. Like, what's the plan here is sort of what I'm thinking with these mounted guns. Not that there's just, bespoke locations for mounted guns. Also, there's a free flag going on. This is going to be going on through the 26th. You can use code GETINTOTHEVERSE, all one word, and you get an Arrow, a Prospector, a Freelancer, a Mustang Alpha, a Dragonfly, and Aurora MR, which is a great complement of ships to see what you may want to do in Star Citizen and what ship you may want to start out with. Also, a lot of those ships are discounted. The Alpha and the Aurora are $4.50 off. The Arrow is $9 off, and the Freelancer is $13 off. They're also celebrating until the 26th Lunar New Year, which is sort of Chinese New Year, but in the Star Citizen universe. There's red envelopes to pick up all around landing zones for credits, as well as red ship skins for sale, red ships for sale, and the C2, M2, and A2 Hercules ships are all on sale for their current price, and the post indicates that when they turn flyable, the prices will likely rise. Also, the last thing is a lore post, and it is related to Lunar New Year. So if you're interested in what Lunar New Year is and how, I guess, the lore says players interact with it or whatever, feel free to check out that post. But that will do it for this week's episode. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I appreciate it. Make sure you leave a like, comment down below, hit subscribe, and if you haven't yet, feel free to stop by my live stream, check it out, and I will see you guys next week.